Every year, MLB Network puts together their top 10 right now at each position across the diamond in Major League Baseball. And I have been following suit here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast, bringing you my own top 10 right now at each one of those positions. I now have the privilege to be working with a tremendous team, and we're going to be bringing you our thoughts and our individual top 10 right now. We want to hear from you down in the comment section below. Who are your top 10 right now at each position? So now we're going to begin with our list. What's going on, baseball fans? We're back at it once again and bringing you our top 10 right now series. And on this particular installment, we are looking at the top 10 relievers in the game today. To join me, I have none other than our resident pitching coach here at the Baseball Banter Broadcast, Coach Ken Anderson. What's going on, Coach?
Not so much, Jeremy. How you doing, man?
Doing well.
Good.
And we have a fun list. Obviously, relievers are some of the most entertaining characters that we've seen in the history of the game. And, you know, this position to me is one of the ones that from year to year has so much volatility and can change at the drop of a dime. So it's going to be an interesting list. I think that we're going to have some interesting takes here. Just so that everybody knows, we do not discuss our list with one another going into this. So it is going to be a reveal for us as much as it is for you. But as we begin, Coach, you got a number 10.
Boy, I went around this list hard, and it's really hard to decipher between the end. You tend to lean more toward closers, and you look at them, and you look at the other guys who set up. But my number 10 is the guy who pitched lights out at the back end of the year and his whole career. Now, he had a tough first half, so it's to keep an eye on. So if anybody leaves him off, I understand, but that's Rossiel Iglesias. Rossiel Iglesias is a dynamite closer who doesn't really have that plus fastball. He has a plus, but he doesn't like throwing his out pitch, of course, is the changeup. And his problems last year was the slider. He couldn't command it, and he got hit on it. And when he kind of spit on it and went away from it, he had a great second half. And to where I believe it was the Dodgers who offered him a decent contract, but he wanted us to come back and pitch in Atlanta. He had a good clubhouse there, which, you know, is admirable, and we're glad to have him in Atlanta. But he finishes number 10, and what makes him very difficult is his changeup is one of the best changeups in the game.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, Rossiel is an absolutely dynamic arm, and you love to be able to have that, you know, kind of consistency at the back end of games. So definitely a good arm to have there. I will tell you, he did not make my list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I can definitely understand why having him, you know, on that list would make sense. Now, my number 10 is Griffin Jax from the Tampa Bay Rays. I think that this is a very interesting reliever. I think that he did not get the best showing when he went and got traded over from the Twins to Tampa. But I think that this is a guy with what he is capable of doing. It is going to be very interesting to watch. And for me as a Yankee fan, very annoying to have to deal with. But I think that when you see what he's going to be capable of, especially we know how much of a pitching factory the Tampa Bay Rays organization has been, I think they're going to be able to help him kind of unlock and take things to another level. And we've seen them do that with plenty of relievers that end up going elsewhere and not being the same after they leave them. So seeing what Tampa's going to be able to do with Griffin Jax to me is going to be a very interesting and intriguing thing to watch. And he's my number 10.
It's interesting. Like I said, we don't talk about this before. He was the guy that I almost put there, and the deciding thing was he struggled at the end, and Rossiel finished well. I am too interested to see what Tampa, the adjustments this offseason. He could have an outstanding year, and definitely it would be in my next year. So I think it's a great pick at number 10. My number 9 is David Bednar. He is probably the most maligned of all the guys on my list by even some of his own fan bases sometimes. But David is very consistent, and he is also very durable. Of all the pitchers on the list, he's the one that when I had a team and he had pitched back-to-back days, he is the one most likely I'm ready to pitch in day 3. As I'm not looking at pitch counts. His arm bounces back. He's tremendous. And what he showed me was by going to and pitching in a hostile environment for the first time, is it didn't really phase him too much. He handled it well. And as you know, as a Yankee fan, not all pitchers do that very well.
Yep.
And he did. And so I wanted to show him some love, and I understand somebody doesn't have him on there, but that's why I have him on there, and he's at number 9 because I think you got to have that kind of mentality as a closer. And like you said, these relievers, they change every year, and he's consistently been very good every year, and that's the reason I got him at number 9.
Yeah, I mean, I love that pick. You know, we saw the guy that he replaced couldn't handle it in New York, and then somehow signed a massive multi-year deal to stay in New York. But you know, no doubt about it, David Bednar is absolutely a joy to watch. It was one of the few relievers that the Yankees had coming out closing games in 2025 that did not make me want to pull my hair out. So definitely a solid pick there. I wanted to get David on the list, you know, and kind of play that hometown bias with him pitching for my New York Yankees, but he just missed. He would have been my, you know, honorable mention there at number 11. But coming in for me at number 9 is Yohan Duran of the Philadelphia Phillies. I think that what he does with that changeup splitter and whatever you want to call it is something that's just absolutely filthy. And then not only that, but then you have that, you know, 102 mile an hour fastball to play off of. It's absolutely incredible. And you know, being able to see that, you know, I live in the Phillies home territory, so I see a ton of Phillies games, and watching what he's been able to do and the way the city has kind of, you know, taken him under their wings, if you were. I think that what he's going to be capable of providing the Phillies is something that they have not had in quite some time in terms of, you know, consistent, solid closer to close out games for them. The bullpen's been very weak for them over the last several years, but I think that this is a guy who can really start to shore things up for them. And even from his time in Minnesota, this was a guy that absolutely dominated. And I think that a healthy Yohan Duran is a guy to be fearful of. So he's my number 9.
I like that pick a lot, and you'll see because he's going to be a little higher on mine. He's an outstanding pitcher and a scary matchup for any hitter in baseball. Number 8 is the guy that confuses me sometimes. It's Andres Munoz from Seattle. I almost didn't put him on the list because he has these moments and he gives up some big times, but he's a big time arm. And I think there's a little bit of pressure to close on that great staff. It's funny when you look at the Mariners staff, is probably one of the best staffs in baseball, but they don't really have that dominant pitcher. So they're really looking for that back end guy. I think he does well. I like his arm. He's one of those that I've seen pitchers carry the weight. I think if he lost a little bit in there, I think he'd be a little bit more with his command. Not a whole lot, but I think that does affect his command. Get a little bit more arch, and he wouldn't leave pitches as elevated or outside. So, but he did make my list, and like I said, he was really. I went back and forth, and I told you when we were talking about I'd make the list. I said I probably tore mine up, and he was on it and off it and on it, and then I ended up with him number 8. So Andres Munoz is my number 8.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I like Munoz a little more, so we definitely will be seeing him pop back up on my list. But as we get to my number 8, it's Aroldis Chapman of the Boston Red Sox. Aroldis is a guy that seems to never lose that fastball, no matter how much older he gets. He's an absolute just specimen of a human being when it comes to his pitching ability and what he does with that fastball. Having to deal with him now in a Boston Red Sox uniform after the travesty that was his last few years in New York, it just makes me even more angry to have to see him and deal with him. But there's no doubt about it. He had a tremendous year for the Boston Red Sox, and I think that, you know, next year is going to be more of the same with what he's capable of doing. And I had to bite the bullet and put him on my list because of how talented he truly is when he's locked in. And in 2025, he was locked in for sure.
Funny with him, he's higher on my list, and I told my wife, I said, she goes, she saw Aroldis where I had him. She goes, you think Jeremy will even have him on the list? I said, I think you'll have him on the list, but he'll be begrudging to do it. But yeah, Rodas is outstanding. We all know what his issues are, but he's definitely somebody you got to think is a top 10 relief pitcher in the game. Number 7 is a guy that maybe a lot of the country doesn't really know, and that's Will Vest. Will Vest is an outstanding relief pitcher, and I love his demeanor on the mound. He just doesn't like he gets rattled, and he pitches for really a kind of a tough team, and I could see anybody having him higher because the Tigers struggle a little bit. And to me, like when you're closing games and you say you're closing for the Dodgers, we have a new guy and other guys have closed, but you always feel like the Dodgers are in every game with that great lineup and everything like that. But with the Tigers, every run matters. And just think when you get into the tie games he gets into,
Yep.
and stuff, and you don't, people don't understand, pitchers don't feel great every day, and starters, they can kind of get away with it because they only pitch every fifth, sixth day. Relievers, you never know when you're going to get called on, and but Will, he kind of reminds me of a younger David Bednar in the fact that he just is a bulldog. He gets out there, he is going to take the ball, and he's kind of guy can also pitch every day if you need him to. And I don't think he really cares whether he's closing or eighth inning, whatever. And AJ uses him whenever he thinks the game's on line. He can put him out there, and he doesn't have that ego like some of the guys we have hired do have the ego, and they can't really pitch in those innings, but Will can. And I think he's outstanding, and he gives the Tigers a chance to win any game because he's on the mound, and that's why I got him at number 7.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that pick. I think that, he kind of gives me that vibe of the old school fireman, right? The guys who used to come in back in the 70s, 3 inning saves. Like that's the kind of pitcher that Will Vest is, a guy that can be relied upon and called on at any point in time. So I did not have Will Vest on my list, but I think that's a great pick without a doubt. Now, for me, you kind of actually teased my number 7 pick, and it's Edwin Diaz. It might seem a little low to some people, but I think that when you look at what Diaz is capable of, he's definitely a top 10 pitcher. But for me, when I look at what he's going to now be called upon to do with the Dodgers, as you mentioned, the pressure that's going to come with, closing out that billion-dollar payroll, if you will, and being able to be the last guy called upon, I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on him to be able to take and put that team on his back to close out games in the 9th inning. There's no doubting what he's capable of. The fastball slider combination that he provides is just filthy when he's on. And I think that it's going to be an interesting time to see what it's going to be now. Obviously I don't have to tell a Braves fan, but the Mets was just, kind of a travesty of a situation that he was in there. And prior to that, he was in Seattle, where nobody was really paying attention. So it's going to be a lot of high pressure eyes now on Edwin Diaz. And I just think that this is going to be a make or break season for him, to see if this is going to be the guy that, got this kind of massive contract as a closing pitcher, or if it's going to be looked at in the ways that, the deal for Tanner Scott a year ago ended up looking. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for Edwin Diaz, but I have at number 7 on my list.
It's a very good pick, and it is going to be interesting. He pitches in LA. He's higher up on the list, so I'll let you how I think it go a different way with him in LA, so we'll see. Number 6 is Aroldis Chapman, and all the reasons you said why he's good is the reason I got him on there. He can be just unhittable sometimes, and Aroldis is somebody who wants the ball, and he's not scared to take it. We know what the negative is. If anybody doesn't have him as high as I do, understand why. His control can be an issue. That's not something you really want in a relief pitcher. You want somebody to come in, and at least if they beat you, they beat you. I know you left Rossiel off, but that's Rossiel's strength. He comes in and all he does is throw strikes. Yep. You're going to have to beat him. And that's Aroldis, but his stuff is still dynamic. And he pitched in Boston, which is not the easiest ballpark to close in. Yeah. And he did a great job. I want to see him back it up this year. If he does it, he's one of those pitchers we talked about at the beginning of the relief pitchers. They tend to come and go, so he can be on the list this year and off of it next year. That's how Rodas is. But this year, I've got him on there, and I've got him at number 6.
Yeah, without a doubt. I again, having to watch him now on the other side, it's a very different feeling than when he's your closer. But no doubt about it, he had a great season in 2025, and it is going to be about backing it up again in 2026. Now, for my number 6 reliever in the game right now, it's the newest Atlanta Brave reliever, and that is Robert Suarez. I think that Suarez is such an underrated and dynamic talent. I think that the Braves were absolutely just ahead of their thought process in terms of picking him up, even with Rysel coming back. I just think that, with him having pitched in San Diego for so many years, people kind of slept on him because they probably weren't awake while he was pitching. But there's no doubt about it. The talent that he has, it's going to be something to really pay attention to. And I think that going to Atlanta, everybody's going to be able to now see him on a more national stage, on a bigger spotlight. And I think that he's going to be able to dominate. And now he's going to be setting up for Iglesias. So that's a guy that you're going to be able to see deployed whenever the game is most critically on the line. And I think that he's going to really flourish in that role with the Braves.
Yeah, he was outstanding, and he's part of a bullpen that's really improved this year too. So it'd be interesting how they deploy him. I expect him to close some as well. So when Ross Hill's down, he'll probably close some. So outstanding arm. He can get it up over 100, so that makes him very difficult. My next guy is Mr. Cade Smith. I love him. I could probably have him higher, and if you've got him higher, that's fine. The thing that concerns me is he doesn't pitch in the most pressure situations where he pitches at. It's kind of laid back and their fan base and what their expectations are. So he had a great year, and I'm honoring that by having him there. But let's see what it is, how he backs it up. There's another one that we were talking about before with some other pitchers. That how does he come this year? How, like a Rawdis, how's he the second year? And there'll be higher expectations in Boston because of how he did. Same thing with Kate. So how does he do in this second? He come in this year, but he has outstanding stuff, and he gets you out with really good breaking stuff. And I could put him closing any game. He's tremendous. I do think that he's kind of a little bit like Rossiel. He needs a good defense behind him, which, they had. But that's the reason why I got him at number 5.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I have him a little higher, so we'll get into my thoughts on him in just a bit. But definitely a tremendous pitcher without a doubt. Now, my number 5 is a reliever, a set man, not necessarily a closer. As most of these guys have been typically the closer of their squad. But it's Adrian Morejon from the San Diego Padres. This lefty to me is one of those guys that is, we talked about it earlier with Bednar, this adorable guy that can go, pitch back-to-back days without any, real drop or diminishment in his stuff. And to me, Morejon is a guy that is tough on lefties, he's tough on righties, and he's just a guy that I want to be able to have on my team in those pressured moments, in those big spots, and to be able to trust that he can go out and get guys out. And I love the way that he just, his aggressiveness on the mound and the way that he just attacks everybody. And for me, I think that giving him that nod, obviously most of the time you expect it to be a closer when you're talking about relievers, but a lot of the time the game is won and lost in those earlier innings, and that's where a guy like Adrian Morejon is going to be a guy that gets deployed in those moments. So for me, I have him at number 5.
Yeah, I had him honorable mention. He's outstanding. It's hard for me, in my coaching, whatever, to put a guy that's not getting the final out in a top 10 in the game, but I have no problem in being there. He's outstanding. I think he gets the biggest out sometimes in the game, which is tremendous. And so I think he would have no problem of doing that.
Yeah.
but I would like to see it on more of a consistent basis to be able to put. But I have no problem anybody putting him there. I think he's outstanding, and when he comes in the game against us, I feel like we're not getting any runs. So that's a sign to have him in the top 10, because he can't, and I know Matt personally, and Matt can't stand to hit off of Olson. As Jeremy knows, our family's known him forever, and he's out, and he doesn't want to see him come in the game. So that's how you judge. Also, when great hitters say, "I don't really want this guy on the mound," so he's outstanding. I can see him being at number 5. Number 4 is that Edwin Diaz. Edwin can be unhittable. And now I'm going to go kind of the other way than you did, and I can accept what you said. But what if it goes the other way? Now he has a lineup in a clubhouse that's not trying to beat each other's head in. They're very, together. They're a together group. BIP does a great job of that. They don't have in-house fighting. They have so many could have egos. They don't have that. That's why they've won back-to-back World Series. Wink, they probably shouldn't have won last year, but they did. That's a little Dodgers hate. A little Roman there on the show. But the fact of the matter is he may go out there and be so relaxed we may see the greatest year of Edwin Diaz's life. But the question you brought up is how he could go the other way too. So it's really going to be interesting here on how he does. And if he is spot on, has relaxed, whoa, my Lord, what kind of record the Dodgers are going to have this year? But if he slips up, the Giants, or if they do the deal that we've been hearing about, add more to that team with that team could maybe make a run at him this year. So we'll see. But that's the reason why I've got him there. I think he's tremendous, and he made my number 4.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Yeah, and it really becomes dependent on, what's happening between the ears of Edwin Diaz. How he can go. Whether it's as you mentioned, being able to have that kind of relaxed nature, knowing that he's got a great team playing behind him inside of a great clubhouse, or that pressure could, wear on him and get to him. So it's going to be very interesting to see which avenue, which path ends up being the case. I lean more towards your side than my own, but I think that there's going to be an interesting time out in LA when it comes to Edwin Diaz.
I agree.
Now, as we get to my number 4, it's a guy you had earlier, and it's Andres Munoz. I think that what he is capable of doing is just, incredible, especially as you mentioned with that pitching staff, right? So to have the starting staff that they have that's looked at as one of the best, if not arguably the best in the game today, and then to have him relied upon to come in and close out, and the way he's able to do that more often than not for this club. Now, obviously, you have to look at what he is capable of doing on just his own merits when you look at a list like this. And as you mentioned, having the fastball and the off-speed stuff that he has, being able to mix and match. And I think that, when you hear him speak when he's not in the game, and when you see the way he is on the game, it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. It's like two different people. And I remember watching a MLB Central interview with him where he's talking about this a stray cat or a rescue that he had, and being so soft and warm and affectionate about his cat, and then you see him on the mound and he's an absolute bulldog and just bullying people with his pitching style. So it's just a fun thing to be able to see him kind of turn it on when the moment's hot, when the lights are on. And for me, I have him at my number 4 spot because of what he's capable of.
What's interesting, I didn't want to say when I picked him, but I figured you had him higher. He's the one guy as a former pitcher I would like to sit in the dugout and just talk pitching with. I think he's a very cerebral guy and just about life in general. So I would like to hear what his discussions are in that Mariners bullpen. I'm sure they talk about everything out there. So he's definitely a tremendous pitcher, and definitely very deserving of being a 4 on anybody's list. Number 3 is the guy you had lower, and that's Mr. Duran. Let me tell you something. When you have an intimidation factor his walkout, intimidation factor, he gets on the mound. He looks like he wants to kill you.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to strike you out. He wants you to actually die in the box. And I'm telling you, maybe it's the old high school coach in me and and talking to college kids. That's a very big factor when he gets in a game. And if anybody can make the Philly crowd love them that quickly, because the Philly crowd's a tough crowd, you know that.
Is.
You gotta earn it, and he got it quickly, and he is tremendous. You gave the reasons why just hitting off of him is ridiculous. I mean, he's going to hit it over 100. He's going to hit you with this all of a sudden 89. You just got to sit there and take it. And he's almost unhittable when he's on. You just have to sit on fastball and try to hit that train out of the ballpark. And if he knows you're doing that, he can just keep spotting it, and I just put him way up there. I have no problem being a little lower because of things, but he proved to me when going to Philadelphia, he can pitch in that big situation in that ballpark. And if you can pitch for the Phillies, just like you can pitch for the Yankees, you're tough. You're tough-minded, and that's the reason I got him at number 3.
Yeah, we talked about this before, recording this episode where, went through several different versions of this list, and it's so difficult to put together a list, especially like this with relievers, right? We talked about it, the year in year out versus volatility that we see with them. You'll have a guy that's number 1, 2, or 3 one year and then doesn't even make the top 10 the next day. So it's just this is a guy that absolutely could dominate, and we could see him even higher on the list next year, without a doubt. And as you mentioned, the presence of the entrance alone is just it's breathtaking. So absolutely, when you get Philadelphia to fall in love with you, there's no doubt about it. You're doing something right.
Amen. Amen.
Now, as we get to my third pick, it's another guy who's not the closer, and it's Eric Zabrowski of the Cleveland Guardians. I think that this is going to be a name that many people may not know outside of Guardians fans, that by the end of 2026, I believe everybody's going to know exactly who he is. When you look at what he is capable of doing, and we know the pitching factory that the Guardians have, it's no doubt about it that they are absolutely incredible at churning out pitchers. And this is just another one in a very, very long line of pitchers that they have churned out that have been absolutely dynamic and tremendous arms. So I have him coming in at number 3, being the setup guy for the Guardians there. And I think that he, much like Morejon that I mentioned earlier, is going to be the guy that's going to go out there and get the opportunities to take it to another level and set things up.
Interesting, because I almost put him on this list. I went with Cade, and they have a tremendous bullpen anyhow. And they, thing with Eric is I like a top 10 that has a projection to where it can have even a better year, and he's definitely in that. He almost made my list, and I fully expect him to make. I'm like you. I think he's going to have a tremendous season. I fully expect him to be there next year in my top 10, and it'll be one that, how did I miss on that? That'd be the guy. So man, I should have had him on top 10. What a idiot pitching coach you are. You didn't even have him on the top 10. So you can hark back at me when we get to the end of the year. But I definitely can see him having a monster year and being as high as what you say is one of the top 3 relievers in the game. So I didn't put him on there, and it could be bite me in the bud, but it was definitely a name that I waffled back and forth. I told you we did a little I probably tore the sheet up 15 times, going back and forth on how I wanted to do it, and I left him off, and he could be the one that gets me because he's an outstanding pitcher, and I love that pick by you, Jeremy. That's a tremendous pick. I really do.
Now, before we get to our top 2 relievers here in the game today, we want to hear from you, baseball fans. We want to know your thoughts and feelings down in the comment section below. Who makes your top 10 relievers list for this upcoming 2026 season? Let us know that all down in the comment section below.
All right, my number 2 is Robert Suarez. I like the fact that he can set up and he can close. He can pitch anyone. I did like the Morahan pick. It's funny how good that bullpen was last year, but he also does the same thing. He can gas it up and he can change speeds. He has 12 miles an hour difference, which is huge in the bullpen, especially in those late innings. I expect him to have a phenomenal year in Atlanta. I tried to get him as lower, even lower, because I was like, don't be, whatever. But I just tried to base on what I've seen, and he's a guy that comes in the game, and and the thing I like about him is he can put people on around him and still get out of situations. I
Yep.
like that a lot about him. Um, Earlier in the list we put Aroldis. That seems to be Aroldis's problem. If he gets people on, it's a nice clean. He goes through it, it's fine. But as soon as it starts getting a little haywire, he struggles, and Robert doesn't do that. And I expect him to uh, be part of the reason Atlanta's back next year in the playoffs. So I have him at number two. I know you have him a little lower, but I like everything about him, the makeup, the fact he can pitch in either inning. And I think he'll be used also a little bit like Moran will be in San Diego. That might even be in the seventh inning. Whatever the toughest part of the game is, he's going to come in and shut it down for us, and then we'll figure it out after that.
Yeah.
Because he has Iglesias in the back of that bullpen, and like Moran has somebody in the back of his bullpen, so you can pitch him wherever you want to get through, and then you can, in their case, maybe bring in Estrada and we bring in a Dylan Lee in, and bang, you get through the eighth, and then you're back into the ninth. So that's why I got him number two. I think he's somebody he can pitch just like the guys you had in your list can pitch any inning, and he definitely can close at the end of a game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why we both had him on the list. I mean, there's no doubt about it what his talent is capable of doing. And I just think we're going to see even more of his talent because of the fact that he's not going to be locked in to the closer role like he was in San Diego. I think that that's just going to really unleash his power and his presence in that bullpen. So definitely a strong pick there. Now, as we get to my number two, it's a guy you mentioned a little earlier, and that's Cade Smith. We're going to see what he's going to be capable of as the closer. We know the situation that the Guardians had with their previous closer who was throwing games and pitches. But with Cade Smith now, he's going to move into that slot. This was the guy that was the setup guy, that was the guy that kind of roved around whenever called upon, for the highest of leverages. Now, obviously we've always heard that the ninth inning is a little bit of a different beast, and we're going to have to see that. But I think that what he is capable of providing with his stuff is just going to be something that is going to be an easy transition for him. And as my number three, Sobrowski setting him up, I think is going to be one of that combination and that tandem is going to be absolutely filthy, especially in that American League Central Division. So I think Cade Smith has the world in front of him in terms of the relief world, but I think that he's going to be capable of putting that together in a big way.
Yeah, when I had him down at five, I said that you'd probably have him higher for the uptick, and I can understand that. I had him down just for the question of that whole season and that ninth inning. We'll see how he does. I fully expect him to do well, but I kept him a little bit lower. But it's a great pick, and they're going to give him and Eric going to give him a chance to really be dangerous and could actually beat the Tigers in that division this year because that bullpen can be locked down, and he's a tremendous pitcher. It sounds like we may be agreeing on number one, so I'll take the first thing here. Mason Miller is number one.
Yeah.
No, it's not just like easily number one, but he is outstanding. And one thing you got to see we didn't know, didn't matter how well he's pitched in college and pitched in A's, you got to see him finally in pressure situations. And one of the greatest rivalries in baseball, pitch against the Dodgers, and he was outstanding. And the Padres look a little different this year, and we don't really know how they're really going to get the ball to the pen. I see some things today from their general manager and their new manager talking about they feel pretty good about you and stuff coming on, but they got to have some major work. But that ball game gets to the end of the game and they're ahead, it's over with Morahan and Miller. And Miller can close out a game. I don't know how you hit him. He has to be off for you to hit him.
Yep.
And that's, to me, is why he's number one. He has to help you by not feeling well that game. But if he feels fresh and he's going, just go ahead and put the gloves in the bag, get ready to put the bats up. We're going to Mars game, or if we're on a road trip, we got to go get on a plane, because Mason Miller is absolutely going to shut the door if he's feeling well. And to me, it's almost like when you had all the other great closers who are now in the Hall of Fame. And we had one close the back of us. I'm old enough to remember when John Smoltz was closing as a starter. The same way, he comes in, game over. It's over unless he didn't feel well. That, to me, is what makes you kind of a Hall of Fame pitcher. Not to make Mason a Hall of Famer yet, but he has the capability to actually be in Cooperstown, because when he feels well, game is over.
Yep, 100%. And I will echo the sentiment. Mason Miller is also my number one. And for everything you said, I mean, I could not put it any better. This is a guy who is absolutely dynamic. And when he comes into the game, you are feeling like it's over, it's done. There really isn't going to be much that you can do against him at any given moment. When he is on, he is lights out without a doubt, and that's why it cost the Padres so much to get him. But he is worth every single prospect of it. So,
I agree.
without a doubt, Mason Miller is a dynamic and number one pick for both of us. So that just goes to show you that it's really a tough market, but we came to a consensus at the top when it comes to the top reliever in the game today. But we want to hear from you. We want to know your thoughts, your feelings down in the comment section below. Who are your top 10 relievers in the game right now? Let us know those thoughts down in the comments. And while you're there, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below, as it truly does continue to help us build and grow this baseball community here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast. There is a ton of new content that is in the works for this 2026 season, and you are not going to want to miss a single moment of it. So hit that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications, so each and every time we drop new content, you will be notified. And as we bring this to a close, Coach, we want to thank you once again for joining me here in covering the top 10 relievers in the game. And for myself and for Coach, we want to thank you guys for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next video. Peace.